Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats.
And welcome to the NFL show on the Solder on Sports Podcast Network, live on YouTube and Total Apex Sports. I am Mark Solder. This is Joe. Good to be back for another week. We said Monday. Today's Tuesday. We'll nail it down eventually. No big deal. As always, this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now, with promo code SPORTS10, get 10% off every card on the First Round Collectibles store. That's firstroundcollectibles.com. Promo code SPORTS10. They have ongoing sales all the time, up to 50% off, which means 10% off. You're getting 20%, 30, 30, 40, 40, 50. I mean, you went to university, Joe, you know math. 40, 50, 50, 60, right? Plus 10. And you get yourself 10% off. This bar on the bottom is wrong. I'll change it in a moment. It is Sports 10 for 10% off. firstroundcollectibles.com. And of course, Total Apex Sports, with the baseball season nearing its end. Playoffs are coming. TotalApexSports.com has you set up. Basketball is on its way. Football, as we're talking about here, is literally right around the corner. I've been dreaming about a Thursday night where I can come home and ignore my entire family and just watch my Eagles take on the Cowboys. Can't wait. We're almost there. And hockey, of course. Anything sports related, TotalApexSports.com has you sorted. Joe, with all of that, how you doing, bro? Happy Tuesday. It's good to see you.
Happy Tuesday. I'm excited. We are T-minus 2 weeks and a little change before the first game, as you stated. So looking forward to it. I need football in my life with the actual, people who are going to be on the team players on the field. Yeah, I'm ready to lock in, man.
Absolutely love it. So today we're talking about the AFC and the NFC West. Last week was the East. Check it out on Spotify, Solder on Sports Podcast Network, and on YouTube. Obviously, also Total Apex Sports on X. You can go back and check it out there. We did the East. Gotta admit, dude, I hadn't podcast since like March. I've been on as a guest. I was a little rusty, but you held it down wonderfully. So go check out the East preview. But we're just warming up, and today is the West. Now, before we dip into a team-by-team breakdown, preview, all of that good stuff in the chat, our guy, love it, Jordan. Screw the family. We need to bet on the over on every Bengals game this season. I was going to say, this guy, I feel like he has a new team to hate on every time, but this isn't really a hate on. It's they score and they get scored against. It's just kind of how it rolls. But Jordan, good to see you on here, brother. So before we get team by team, let's dive in, get your just main storylines in the AFC West for Joe heading into this 2025 NFL season.
Yeah, I mean, is it KC's division to lose? I think you see the coaches that are now coaching in this division, some pretty high profile names, some guys who have won some chips in this league. So now it's basically, all right, like, did they do enough in the offseason, whether it's the leadership, whether it's free agency, to usurp Kansas City, or is it going to be the same old thing? Just pencil or put it in pen that they're going to win the AFC West. I think that's going to be the story.
Yeah, for me, it's along the same lines, is that this is the best that this division as a whole has been in a while, in my opinion. I just feel like it's always been, Kansas City. That's just the way it's been for years now. Since Patrick Mahomes as a starter has just always made it to the championship game, right? And it's just a kind of foregone conclusion. Last year, it was one of those seasons where it's like, how is this team doing this? Figure it out for the playoffs. Clearly, the Super Bowl was what it was. But you just have faith that the Chiefs are just always going to be there. Yeah. And I think as a whole, this division got better, I would say. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. Specifically, like, I'm curious to see because, like, and I mean, we're going to talk about it, but the Raiders, I feel like, have gotten better. I think the new coach, obviously Pete Carroll with Geno Smith reunion, I think that's really interesting. The Chargers, we're going to talk about them in a minute. The fact that they're the Chargers is always the biggest pause for concern for me. Like they could have Bill Belichick and Tom Brady on that team, and the fact that they're the Chargers would just always concern me. And the Broncos. I think the Broncos have had a really quick turnaround, and I think that they look really good heading into the season too. So we'll see how it all pans out. Let's start with the Los Angeles Chargers. 11-6 last year, first year with Harbaugh, and I'm so bad for this. People might just ignore everything that I have to say after this, but I always forget who is who. Is this John or Jim? This is Jim, right?
This one's Jim, yes.
This is Jim. Okay. I always forget who is who. 11-6 last year, 10.5 wins is the over this year. 22-1 are the Super Bowl odds. Joe, Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to start you off with this, and this is the part of the show where I tell you that I want you to go, and then I'll talk for the next 10 minutes. Everybody, I'm sure that there is a more controversial player, and I don't mean controversial as far as like off-field stuff or nothing like that. Justin Herbert. I feel like you either think this guy is like a top 5 quarterback, zero debate in your mind, or you just don't like believe in him and you don't understand it. Now, it's not that I love it all over the place, different podcasts that I'm listening to and Twitter, people, for whatever reason, Jalen Hurts versus Justin Herbert is like the argument, because I feel like it's pretty locked in. You have Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jackson, and Burrow. That's kind of your top 4. However you want to rank them, that's up to you. I feel like that's a pretty standard chalk top 4. And I feel like the conversation at 5 is either Justin Herbert or Jalen Hurts. And the people who pick Justin Herbert are flabbergasted that you would even consider not putting him 5th. Like, how could you? And then you have the Jalen Hurts people who are like, well, the guy like won a Super Bowl. Like, what's Justin Herbert been up to? So my question to you is, I'm on the side that I don't really get it. I think that the ceiling is clearly really high. I think that he is super talented. I'm not even talking about playoff success. I don't get it. I think consistency is a huge issue. I don't know, man. I just don't see it. I think back to Josh Allen, where you would get a lot of the Superman, but you'd also get a lot of the bad, and the bad has come down a lot with Josh Allen throughout the years. We talked about that last week. However, Justin Herbert has had some great games and great performances, but no Superman, I wouldn't say. He's had some great moments, but I wouldn't say Superman. So Jim Harbaugh, another year with him. The receiving core, we'll talk about it. I'm sure you'll talk about it. But let's start with Justin Herbert. Are you in? Are you out? Are you, I don't know. I feel like the Chargers are always just a giant, I don't know. But yeah, where are you at with this guy, Justin Herbert, man? Because I just don't know. I just can't put my finger on it.
Honestly, I think Justin is he started off hot, right? And that's kind of like the reason why all of those, accolades, all of that, promise was like, oh, he's gonna be top five. He's gonna be top five. He went 31-10 first season in. He went 38-15 the second season in. So you're thinking, oh, God, guy's averaging 30 touchdowns a season. Yeah, he's gonna be lit. It's gonna be a great time. But he hasn't topped 25 since that season, right? And now we're running into a little bit of injury issues, right? So what's his health looking like? And he's got Greg Roman as an OC, which definitely means that you're going to be running 25, 30 times a game now. So
Yeah, great
now
point.
it's like now the situation's like, okay, he's got a better head coach than he's had throughout his career, right? But what comes with that is the style of play that Jim likes to run, which is primarily run the football, win the line of scrimmage, ball control. So I don't know if that really suits I don't know if that really suits Herbert getting 30 touchdowns a season, getting 40, 35, 40 touchdowns. Um Honestly, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to winning. This is why I would say those that argue Hurts not being ahead of Herbert has lost their mind. I mean, the guy's won a chip, been to another Super Bowl and lost in. You could say, oh, well, I mean, he played on the Eagles. He's got the best offensive line in football and this, that, and the other. It's like, listen,
Yeah,
at some point, the Chargers are going to have the best offensive line in football because Harbaugh's gonna make it so, because if he wants to run the style of
yeah,
offense he wants to run, he's gonna have some dudes on the line of scrimmage. Unfortunately, their best lineman is now out for the year in Slater, so um, he's gonna have to
big
piece
deal. Yeah, that's
he's gonna have to piece some things together as far as the line's concerned. But the thing with Herbert is I don't know if he reaches that like echelon that you're talking about with Hurts, with how they're gonna be running their offense. I just don't know statistically speaking if he reaches that because of how they're gonna be running their offense.
yeah. And I mean, listen, I'm not going to turn this into a Philadelphia Eagles podcast, but I will say with the Jalen Hurts thing, like, yes, there's no denying the level of talent that's around Jalen Hurts, and you just can't compare the two. And I understand that. I'm not some naive fan, but in both Super Bowls, I would say, my opinion, in both Super Bowls, Jalen Hurts was the best player on the field for both teams in both Super Bowls, in my opinion. And so, biggest moments. And in one of the games, it wasn't enough. And in one of the games, although in that Super Bowl, I don't think it mattered what Jalen Hurts did. That was
Yeah.
a whole different situation. But okay, so overall, what are your looks at? And thank you for that. It's funny, man. Just to double back to that, Joe. Like, I'm looking at Justin Herbert's stats, and I don't know. Like, yeah, 2020, 4,300 yards plus that. 2021, 5,014. 2022, 4,739. 2023, 3,134. 2024 last season, obviously, 3,870. I also think in my mind, oh, the guy is always hurt. The guy always gets hurt. Well, 15 games, 17 games, 17 games, 13 games, 17 games. The reason why I think he's always hurt is because he is always hurt, but he always plays, which there's something to be said for that. The stats, like you said, are terrific for the most part. I mean, 31-10, like you said, 38-15, like you said, 25-10, 27, 23-3. You can trust him with the football as far as the passing game goes. But I don't know. Like, there's just something about this team. It's just on paper, it's there. But when I'm like trusting this guy as my quarterback. I just haven't really gotten there yet. But overall, as a team, where are you at this year with the Chargers?
I think with the Chargers, it's gonna be interesting, what they do, offensively speaking, with Greg Roman as OC, because with Greg Roman as OC, the ratio, pass run ratio is going to be skewed more towards the run, right? And now they've improved the backfield, right? They had a couple of guys, a couple of former Ravens running backs, who had questionable injury history in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, behind Herbert. And this year they've got UNC pickup in the draft, Amari and Hampton, and then they've got Najee Harris from Pittsburgh. So uh, stability at that position is going to be good. I think both of these guys are durable. Hampton played a lot of football in UNC. Harris played a lot of football in Pittsburgh. Didn't miss a lot of games. Najee didn't miss a lot of games. I find him to be more durable than who he replaced in Dobbins. So I think they're going to have really good combination running the football. How much does Roman mix in the pass is going to ultimately, I think, determine where this team goes offensively. I don't mind them going ball control, but keep in mind your best lineman is now out. So maybe mixing in some quick passing game with your three wideouts, your two tight ends. They have solid skill positions. Allen, maybe not the Allen that used to be with the Chargers in previous years, but he's still very durable in terms of being in the right spot on third down. He will get you first downs on third down, which is the money down. Will Dissly, Tyler Conklin, who came from the New York Jets, I think those two are going to play a really pivotal role. The skill positions are there on offense. What I personally worry about is the defensive side. I think offensively they can score points. They will be in games offensively. Defensively, how much does Khalil Mack have in the tank? Okay. You've got two new starting corners now in Dante Jackson and Cam Hart. Derwin James is going to be a beast back there. Seminole alum, shout out. He's gonna man that backside, but I just wonder, can those new starting corners hold up? Because Dante Jackson's kind of like a journeyman guy. And what do I always say? If you used to play for the Carolina Panthers, I worry about your ability to play football. No offense, but I feel like if you came from the Panthers at some point, some bad habits have seeped into your being, and it may not be well for you moving forward. So listen, if they could ball control, keep the defense off the field, and maybe not have Mac on the field too often, I think maybe he gives you another double-digit sack season. And 10's a big number for me though. I think 9-8, 10-7's about right. It's a stacked division. There's going to be no gimmies in that division. Even with the Raiders, I think, like you said, 10-7 might be about right. That would be a stay away for me, honestly.
Yeah, well, dude, listen, man. Like I one of my favorite gambling moments was seeing the Chargers up 27-0 at halftime against the Jags and just pounding that Jags money line. Like not even a doubt in my mind, just because the Chargers, I've said this to my buddies, like the odd football podcast that I've done in the past, and my buddies on a Saturday afternoon when we're going over Sunday slate or whatever, I've said this: the Chargers, they love to lose, man. Like they just love to find a way to lose, and I do think that's different. Yeah, dude, and I think that's different with football. I do think I feel like they had a pretty good draft this past year. You mentioned some of them. I think that they're probably one more solid draft away from really being a consistent, contender. I still have a hard time trusting it. Now, we're going to get to the schedule here in a second. The Najee Harris part of it's really interesting to me because I agree with you. I think it's a great ad. I still don't love the running back room. I do think that Hampton, listen, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I actually know like these draft picks coming out. But from all accounts, from what you've said and from what I have heard beyond, Hampton is a very promising back. A lot of people are really high on this guy. The one thing that I'll say is Najee Harris, random, I don't even know all the details, but he has this eye injury that's going to keep him out for the first 4 weeks. So they got to survive that. And I think when he comes back, I don't even know, like, do you know what I'm hosting a football podcast. I should know what this is, but do you know what happened? Like, he almost lost his eye or something.
Yeah, so this was a July 4th,
oh yeah,
this was
I should have known.
yeah, this was a firework incident, and you would think that people would learn from Jean Pierre Paul or Jason Pierre Paul, who lost
blew his hand
two
off.
fingers off of one of his hands. You would think that maybe we take it a little easy on July 4th, but here we are. But listen. Truth be told, he's lucky that his vision is where it is, okay, and he's lucky that nothing worse happened in regard to that. So valid point there. I mean, he's typically pretty durable, but think about it this way: that was an off-field incident. Very rarely does he get hurt on the field. So this was like a freak accident that happened to him.
No. And your point is 100% taken. He is durable when it comes to football. Just listen, man. Like, we all need to learn this lesson. When you can't fight fireworks. Like, fireworks will win at all costs. Raider Nation, what up, man? Thank you for hanging out on YouTube. We will get to the Raiders, which he typed in the chat. I can't do that justice. I wish I could, but
pretty good, actually.
I also
that was pretty good.
Dude, with the Raiders, I have so much respect, and this isn't just the Raiders, but I think the Raiders are the most respect that I have is those fans. Like, the work that they have to do to put on that, like, the makeup and just the whole getup, dude. Like, that is just
dedicated.
The confidence that you have to dude, the confidence that you have to look at yourself in the bathroom mirror and say, I'm ready. Like, let's leave the house like this. I love it. And I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even being facetious. Like, I completely stand behind that statement. All right. Schedule. Week 1, Chiefs. Then the Raiders, the aforementioned Raiders, Broncos, Giants. Right off the bat, I think that's a really tough start to the season. Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos. I can see them beating the Chiefs in week 1. It's at home, which doesn't really matter in Los Angeles. I think it matters more for the Rams than it does for the Chargers. So the Raiders in Las Vegas, we'll talk about them in a bit. Then the Broncos, who, spoiler alert, I'm really high on this season. I really, really like what the Broncos have kind of become over the last couple of years. And then the Giants in New York. Then you got Washington, Miami, Colts, Vikings, and Titans to wrap up the first half of the season. I can see all different worlds of 4-4, 4-5, 5-3. I think that first, I can also see in the first 4 weeks is 1-3. Like, I can also see that world as well. To wrap it up, the back half of the season, starting week 10, you have Steelers, Jags, bye, Raiders, Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos, which makes the first half of the season really important because I think that they can beat Pittsburgh, although I I'm weirdly in on Pittsburgh because I just feel like they're going to make the playoffs. We just have to accept that. So when you have starting in week 6, Dolphins, Colts, Vikings, Titans, I think those are like borderline must-win games, because after the Jags in week 11, you have your bye. Then you have the Raiders division game, probably go 1-1. I'm sure Raiders Nation disagrees. He's saying probably 0-2. And then you have the Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, which is a win. We all know that. Texans and Broncos to wrap up the season, week 17 and 18, Texans and Broncos, which both of those teams could really need those 2 games. So to me, I think I lean on the under 2. I think 10-7 is a very realistic number there. I think anything more than that would be terrific for them. But I do think that this season is bookended by some really tough stretches.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And then that Slater injury really just you with a quarterback that you don't want him to have to play hurt, right? So losing your best lineman, I think kind of like alters a little bit, just slightly, like the projection, because some of these teams that we're looking at here, they got some guys that can go. Like that Giants game, I don't think that's a gimme with the pass rush they got coming. So, and we got Sexy Dexy in the middle as far as the run game's concerned. So like that could get dicey. I can see a world where that 1-3 is accurate.
100%. And then that Eagles game, week 14, like, dude, the Eagles fans show up against the Chargers in LA, like that might as well be a road game. So we'll see. Shout out again, Raider Nation. My B-Day was August 7th. Happy birthday, bro. Mine was last week. So we're very close. We're very close. So happy birthday, bro. Again, appreciate you. And he said, where was it? I saw this. He was there on the 16th with my wife, a Niner fan. Well, we'll talk about the Niners later. I'm sorry to hear that for her sake. I'm always fascinated by couples who have 2 different fandoms, like how, although there's worse rivalries than the Raiders and the Niners, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that home isn't as toxic as like if your wife, like if my wife was a Cowboys fan, I don't even think we'd be doing this life together. Like I don't know if we would even make it, but anyway, that's a whole nother thing. And we will move right along. Let's move on to the Denver Broncos. What's their stupid saying? Let's ride. Is that them?
Is it? Maybe.
Let's ride.
I thought that was Russ for a minute. Like I thought that was just his thing, but maybe it is. Let's ride. Maybe it is.
I don't know. That would be fun, dude. That's funny because if that is just Russ's thing, then I was fooled. I just thought I kind of respected more. He really bothered me when he first joined the Broncos, but if he made that up, I kind of respect it. Like just trying to fit in the best you can. Like let's ride. I'm on this Bronco. Let's go. That's hilarious. All right, moving on. Denver Broncos 10-7 last year. Another year with Sean Payton. First year for Bo Nix. 9.5 wins is their total this season. 40-1 Super Bowl odds. I really like what they have kind of done here. I think Bo Nix, of course, it's the obvious thing. Is Bo Nix the beginning of the year Bo Nix? Is he the end of the year Bo Nix? Is he somewhere in the middle, which probably is more kind of what it is. I think that their defense is phenomenal. I can see a lot of unders. I know Jordan's joking about the Bengals with the overs. I think that the Broncos like just like low scoring games, get the job done, and get out of there. Super curious to what you see with the Denver Broncos heading into September.
This is another rookie quarterback that had a really solid first season, and so now we're looking to see what the movement is from year one to year two. Let's see if he avoids a sophomore slump. They picked up a new running back in J.K. Dobbins of the aforementioned Chargers. Again, one thing to worry about him, health. So along with Dobbins, they did draft R.J. Harvey from UCF. So they're gonna have a stable of backs. McLaughlin's probably gonna mix in on third downs, be a passing back. I think the weapons are there. I think Mims and Vele really did some good work last season. Sutton, the veteran, just got paid, so hopefully he's happy with his extension. I think the offense should be solid. The defense was already good, and now they've added some dogs back there. They got Hufanga over from the 49ers, starting safety from the 49ers, and they also picked up Greenlaw. So Greenlaw for me is going to be really, really interesting because he was hurt for half the season last year, had the really nasty injury the year prior with San Francisco. Came in probably, I think, about mid-season last year. Played well enough to earn a contract with the Broncos. If he is even remotely close to what he was with the 49ers, this defense just got even better. And you've obviously got your lockdown corner and Patrick Surtain II. He's going to lock down whoever the number one is on the opposing team. So that's going to be music to the ears of guys like Zach Allen, Cooper, Franklin Myers, who they picked up from the Jets. That defense could be even better if Greenlaw is healthy and Hufanga on the back end. What's their over-under?
9.5. Let me double check this. 9.5. Yeah.
10's viable. 10's viable. I think with the improvement on the back seven on the defense, very viable, honestly.
Yeah. No, I'm really high on this team, and we'll dive into the schedule here in a minute. I think the thing is, even when Russ was there, and listen, that was a whole thing. You're changing the coaching regime, everything's changing. You're trying to build whatever, and Russ was Russ, and it's not all his fault. I thought he actually played kind of decent in his last year there. But I didn't really understand the pieces on offense. I didn't really understand the running back room, the receiver room. I thought that the defense has always, at least in the last few years, has always been kind of like their saving grace and what's always kind of kept them around, at least recently. But I just didn't really understand offensively kind of what they were. Obviously, with Bo Nix, like, it's a second year. The height of Bo Nix was at the end of the season, right? The last, like, whatever half. And so we got to see it. Like, we have to see it once again. I really like J.K. Dobbins, like you said. I think Sutton, Mims Jr., who was sneaky pretty good last season, adding Ingram at tight end, I think that was a really sneaky ad. I think that's going to be very interesting to see. I really like this offensive room now. I just think they have really good pieces for them. And yeah, man, having Sean Payton there for another season, we began to season the offensive guru-ness of Sean Payton again that he kind of had back with the Saints back in the day. We kind of started to see that last season, so I'll be interested to see. On the defensive side of it, I got like nothing to add. I think you're 100% right. I mean, listen, man, Surtain, he is, what he is. I think obviously we all know about him. If you add Greenlaw to the worst defense in the NFL, something will be better. Like you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you add him, something's going to add. So I am really high on this team. And when we look at the schedule, which we will here, pulling it up. Brady, what up, bro? Good to see you on the chat. If you're listening on Spotify, hang out with us on YouTube. Follow at Solder on Sports, and find out when we're going live. And you can join us in the chat. Brady, for those of you who listen to Pucks Across Borders, Vancouver guy, huge hockey fan. Just I don't even know why you're watching this show, Brady. You're so obsessed with Vancouver. And spoiler alert, no NFL goals. They are in last. And you know very well what this hat is, Brady. So you just keep your opinions to yourself. But it's good to see you, man. I'm glad you're here. All right. Speaking of the Niners, no, that's preseason. Regular season. Titans week 1, Colts week 2, Chargers week 3, Bengals week 4. Automatic 2-2. Bottom for me, the floor. Right? You got to think Titans, Colts, those are both wins. Chargers, Bengals. The Bengals are notorious for starting slow. How long does that go? Is that still going week 4? Kind of who knows. But that's floor 2-2. I think the Eagles in Philly makes that tough, but that's not a gimme for the Eagles by any means. That's a really tough spot, I think, for both teams. Then you have the Jets, Giants, Cowboys. 3 games that you would think probably 2-1 minimum, probably, when you got Jets, Giants, Cowboys. You would think 2-1 minimum, in my opinion. Whether it's the Jets, Cowboys lose to the Giants, or you lose to, or maybe even 3-0. Texans, Raiders, Chiefs, really tough 3-game stretch there. And then you have the Commanders, the Raiders again, Packers, Jags, Chiefs, and Chargers to finish off the season. So yeah, man, 9.5. I'm right there with you. I can see a world, especially if, and again, this is what makes the preseason so fun, is we just kind of pretend that we know what we're talking about, and we're looking at all these different, not pretend, but like, you know what I mean? We're looking at all these schedules
everything on paper. Judging everything on paper.
Titans, Colts, Chargers, Bengals. I'll give that 3-1. Eagles, you know what? You can't win them all, Eagles. Why not? We'll give them a win. 4-1. 5-1 Jets. 5-2 Giants, because you're my guy. Cowboys 6-2. Texans 6-3. I think it's realistic again that the Raiders and the Broncos split. Chiefs probably split as well. I'm with you, man. I think over 9.5, and I'd even look at like the alternate lines over 10.5. If you're looking at just one extra win, over 10.5. I don't know what it is. I am high on this team, and I'm really curious to see how it goes. I love in this chat right now, Brady and Raider Nation, just some classic hockey talk. Just beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm doing a football show, but I'm a hockey guy, and you just can't run away from it, Joe. You can't run away.
Fair enough.
All right. Moving on to, Raider Nation. Here we go. The Las Vegas Raiders. Pete Carroll, year 1. You have Geno Smith, year 1. Really curious to see those two. Although they weren't together for a super long time, they are reunited. Last season, 4-13, 5.5 wins, which, based on what we saw last season, is understandable. 4-13 over 5.5. Based on what they did in the offseason, I feel like that's a little bit disrespectful. I'm not saying it's going to jump up to 8.5, 9.5, nothing like that. But I don't know, man. 5.5 seems a little bit low to me. Super Bowl odds 100-1. Joe, where are you at? 2025 edition of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, listen, I think that number really just represents a lot of what happened last year and also what their perceived weaknesses are this year. I will say I'm not in love with the defense. I'm not in love with the defense. I'm not in love with Jeremy Chin at safety. I'm not in love with Darnay Holmes at nickel. Um, I think their Sam linebacker position a little suspect with Devin White and Jalen Smith. If it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago for both of those guys, that would be a solid position. But Devin White is not the Devin White that we saw in Tampa Bay, and Jalen Smith is not the Jalen Smith that we saw at his peak with the Cowboys. So I wonder about that position. I will say that stability at quarterback is definitely going to help them. I think getting a guy like Geno Smith, who is used to being a bit of an underdog, used to being a guy that not much is expected from. Um, kind of like humbling experience early on, as a second round draft pick, and now um, he's a savvy vet. He plays solid football. Is he going to wow you? Maybe not. But the fact that there's stability at that position where it hasn't been, I think has to help. Their running back room million times better than it was last year.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that loss of Josh Jacobs was very, very obvious and evident last year with the rotation of backs that they have in there. Now you got a guy in Raheem Mostert backing up a guy like Ashton Genty, who literally
Yeah.
almost broke the record in college for rushing yards in a season. And then Mostert, not 2 or 3 years ago, had like 18 touchdowns with the Dolphins. The guy can still go. So I think having that rotation at running back gives them the ability to try to control the clock and kind of protect the backside of that defense. Because again, that defense I'm not in love with. But if Kuntz is healthy, opposite Crosby, I think they can get some pass rush. Jermaine Pratt coming over from the Bengals gives them a solid linebacker in the middle, somebody who knows what's going on, can read defenses, things of that nature. I just don't know if it's enough to be like, okay, definite playoff team, especially with them being in one of the most competitive divisions in football.
Yes.
But I do agree that 5 number is a little bit disrespectful. I think they get over that number.
Yeah, man, and I think that's the hard part for the Raiders. And like, listen, Raider Nation, hear me out, brother. No disrespect to Raiders. I think they're going to be. I honestly think, because like, let's just be real about this. This has been tough to watch Raider football the last couple of years, and I think that it's going to be competitive football. I think that they're going to put a really good product on the field. They might not win every game, obviously, but I think it's going to be like, we want to see Genty. We want to see Geno Smith with PK. We want to see how this all comes together, and I'm really curious to watch. They're on my radar as one of the teams that I'm the most curious about. I really am curious about this team, and I'm really interested to see. I just think, as you said, that's the hard part for this team, is this division has quietly become one of the best divisions in the league. It just is. The Broncos are much better than they have been the last couple of years. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Chargers, on paper, we just talked about it, right? Now with the Raiders, it's just, that's a really tough division. And so if you can get by, like Brady said in the chat, if you can get by 3-3, that's a win for me anyway. I think that's a win. If you can split that division right down the middle, I just think that is going to be hard to do. The thing on the offensive side, of the football. And I do agree with you, Raider Nation, saying we the sleeper team. I agree with that. If there's a team, some long shot team, and I don't mean long shot as in like I'm talking betting. If you're looking at like a long shot bet, that is a team to look out for. On the offensive side, the thing that I'm curious about is the receiver room. I don't love it. I think Jacoby Myers, very good. I'm about it. Like you said, the running back room is tremendous, especially compared to years past. To have Mostert as a backup to a very promising rookie, I think is huge. Like I'm just really looking forward to seeing how that plays out. The defense, I agree with you that I don't love it, but Max Crosby, man, you have that guy. I just think that it's an automatic difference maker. I'm looking at him for Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's just one of those guys that will win one. I just feel that. You know what I mean? Brady, because I know ball, Brady. It's very clear. How do I know all these players? Either I know ball or I just spent 2 hours listening to a podcast and I'm regurgitating everything. So you'll never know, Brady. So I'm really man, I'm really curious to see how this goes. I just think Max Crosby is just one of those guys who you have him on the field. It's a big difference maker. Going to the schedule. Moving along here. Give me a beat. Loading it up. Love the energy in the chat today, by the way. Great having everybody joining us, whether on X, on YouTube. We appreciate it all. Patriots week 1, Chargers week 2, Commanders week 3, Bears week 4. The Bears are one of these teams we're going to talk about at some point on another show. The Bears are a team that I just have no idea. Like I don't really know what we're expecting from that team. The Commanders, same thing, man. Like huge. We talked about them last week. Huge season last year. Are we seeing a repeat of that? Have they turned the corner? It's hard to see. I think Patriots, Chargers, Commanders, Bears, through the first 4 weeks, I can see 2-2, maybe 1-3. I don't think they go beyond 2-2, but that's kind of how I see it. Colts, Titans, back-to-backs in week 5 and 6. To me, and again, we're going to talk about both of those two teams on another show in the weeks to come. If you are a team that's looking to turn a corner and not even necessarily make the playoffs, I'm just saying take a step forward. The Colts and the Titans have to be teams circled as guaranteed win. You have to beat these teams. You have to.
We call them get right games. So if
Yeah,
you struggled
yes,
early
right.
in the game, and you see and last year before Bryce Young figured it out, Carolina used to be the get right game. You see Carolina on the schedule, you're like, boom, we can definitely get our team right playing the Panthers. But yeah, I'd see those two. They got Danny Dimes rolling in there at Indy now. Yeah,
Didn't they name
it's probably so there's today. They named them the starter today.
right?
QB1. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Shout
out to him.
I mean, listen, I'm not a big.
He picked the right spot to go to.
I'm not a big Richardson guy, Joe. And again, we're going to talk about the Colts on another show, but I'm not a big Richardson guy. But like, what's your end game here in starting Jones? Like, are you just not? You're just out on AR or what? Like, I don't really understand it, but we'll talk about that on another show. So like my point is, to me, is if you're the Raiders and you think that you're turning a corner, you're circling the Colts and the Titans, and you need to win those games. Chiefs, the Raiders play the Chiefs tight, man. I can see 1-1 split. The bye is week 8. We haven't talked about the Jags yet, again, on another show, but I'm curious where you're at. I feel like the Jags, either people are in or out. I feel like there's no middle ground with this Jags love. I am out on the Jags. Spoiler alert for the weeks to come. So we'll see. And then the Broncos, Cowboys, Browns, Chargers, Broncos, Eagles, Texans, Giants, Chiefs. I have a hard time. Raider Nation, don't hate me. Keep on watching. I have a hard time seeing a playoff run necessarily. However, I think they can blow past this 5.5. And by blow past, I mean like 7, 8. You know, like I just think 5.5 is just super low. If we're given, Patriots, Chargers, Commanders, Bears 2-2, I think by week 7 they can be 4-2 if they take care of business against the Colts and the Titans. Chiefs split, Jags, there's 5 wins there. Broncos probably a split. Cowboys, there's 6 wins. I can easily see 7 or 8, not easily, but I can see 7, 8 wins here, which makes them a sleeper, like Raider Nation said.
Yeah, I'd say 7's about right. That first Denver game's going to be a little bit tricky just because they're going on in 4 days. That game against Jacksonville, they'll have 2 weeks to prepare for, but likely they're probably preparing for both games in advance, just because they have that 4-day swing between those 2 games. But yeah, I very easily could see 6 or 7 games for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. All right, let's wrap up the AFC portion of the show talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. I want you all to know, Brady, just in case you think that I'm not prepared for this, okay? I watched the New Heights episode with Taylor Swift, so I got all of the Chiefs research and preparation that I needed. Big T Swift guy. If people want to hate on it, that's fine. I'm all about it. And it was a wonderful episode. So I feel like I know the Chiefs backwards and forwards now. 15-2 last year. Some would say a miraculous 15-2. And I've never. It felt a lot like when a couple of years ago when the Eagles went 10-1 and everyone was like, this is not sustainable. If the difference is for the Eagles, it wasn't sustainable. Yeah. And for the Chiefs, it was. And they end up in the Super Bowl. 15-2 last season, 11.5 wins is the total. 6-1 are their odds to win the Super Bowl. And I should see I think these odds are a little bit old. I should check the updated odds. But Joe, what do you got on the Kansas City Chiefs heading into September?
Listen, I'm curious to see what this offense looks like with all of their star wide receivers in play. I think what we saw last year was they never had their full contingent on the field together, right? Either there was a suspension, someone gets hurt for the year, someone started the year hurt and then came back and then they lost. There was a lot of just movement, then the trading for Hopkins, and there's just a lot of movement in that wide receiver room. So I'm curious to see the jump between year 1 and year 2 for Xavier Worthy. I think with Rice being available, Brown being available, that room becomes very interesting. Is the deep ball back for them now? Because all those guys can burn. Well, Rice more possession-wise, but Worthy and Brown can burn. So is the deep ball back for them? Because if the deep ball is back for them, look out. Because if they're in anywhere near a high-octane mode, it's going to be very interesting what happens. Is Josh Simmons the answer at left tackle? That's going to be the biggest takeaway for me. Is if Josh Simmons ends up being the guy that they need him to be at left tackle and Patrick Mahomes is clean, the deep ball's in play. The deep ball's in play because he's going to have time to throw the deep ball. He's going to have time for those guys to get open. run after catch for Worthy, insane. So obviously they're gonna mix in those, jet sweeps and bubble screens and things like that to get him the ball in space. But if they can just have protection on his blind side, look out, because they got some burners if they can stay healthy. I think that's going to be the real key for them. I think the back end, I still think that second corner spot is suspect. It was suspect a little bit last year. I think it was a little bit better, when they had Snead and they had McDuffie as the two corners. That's going to be, we're going to have to see what happens there. Um, but yeah, I think honestly, does the offense return to a little bit more of a balance in terms of having the deep ball more available to them with their receivers healthy? Spags is always going to get those boys going. So the defense, I think, ultimately at the end of the day will be fine. Also, one last bit, Pacheco, non-existent at the end of the year. He was hurt. Then when he played, he wasn't very effective. Is he fully healthy? Is he going to be the guy that we typically saw? Low key, really neat little pickup. Mitchell from the 49ers. Literally any running back that has ran behind the 49ers line was successful. Mitchell was like kind of like the beginning of that. Before they picked up McCaffrey, before he was like the beginning of that lineage of 49ers backs. I think he can mix in with this with Hunt, with Pacheco, and make them a three-headed monster.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to say that that's a sneaky good pickup there.
Yeah.
And I think that really adds some very good depth to that running back room. Kareem Hunt is just, that guy still does it. Like, I know he might not be exactly what he was, but he's just like reliable always, no matter how much time he misses or nothing like that. I really like the Mitchell pickup. I just want to quickly, Raider Nation mentioned this, and I forgot to bring this up. I like Bowers this year, a whole bunch of his over props going back to the Raiders for tight end. I like a lot of his props in the betting market for futures. MVP would be wild, unless you're talking about something different. This is like some slang that I don't get, but I still I like Bowers a lot, and I'm going to be betting on him
over on
all season long.
Also, that might be something with what you said about the wide receiver core for the Raiders. Over on his catches might be a sneaky good pick also.
I 100% agree. 100% agree. All right, back to the Chiefs. Rashee Rice is an interesting one, Joe, because it is believed he will be available for the first 4 weeks. He's still going to face a suspension at some point, and it's come out recently that the league wants 10 games, and the PA is saying no way. And so, what's it going to be? I don't know. So it feels like he's going to be around for a while, but then he's going to be gone for 10 weeks. So, or at the most, maybe less, probably. I don't know who.
Yeah,
it's the NFL, man. They suspend guys. They don't suspend guys for awful stuff, or they suspend guys for 4 weeks for awful stuff, and then they don't suspend guys anyway. Whatever. It's annoying, but anyway, being physically abusive and is apparently way more acceptable than like gambling on your own games. Apparently, they're two different sides of the spectrum that I thought they were on. The NFL seems to have a different opinion, but anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so that's going to be interesting to see. Worthy, I'm really interested to see him. Like you said, man, the guy can burn another year in this system. And Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, man, like he's one of those. We all know his career, right? One of the best tight ends of all time. If you were to tell me that he is the best of all time, I'd probably disagree, but I wouldn't argue. Like if that's what you think. was last year the Era Tour fatigue, a long summer, or is this about what we're going to see now from him? It would be curious to see. Even Travis Kelce at C+ is still a very nice safety net for Patrick Mahomes, right? So you're not going to argue with that. I really like, and like you said, man, Josh Simmons, Trey Smith as well, keeping him is huge. I think that this offense is going to take a huge step forward from last season, which is hilarious to say about a 15-2 team, but that's just is what it is. And on defense, man, I just think they got a lot of really steady guys. Obviously, Chris Jones at the front of that. George Karlaftis, another one. I just think steady, right? So I just don't see a world where this team takes a gigantic step back. Now 11.5 wins is a lot. Like I said, I think this division, as I've said throughout this whole podcast so far, this division is better. That doesn't, I think that matters more to the rest of the division than it does to the Chiefs. And the reason why I say that is because this division always seems to play the Chiefs hard. Like, they'll lose to the rest of the division, and maybe they'll lose to the Chiefs too, but they'll always give the Chiefs a tough game. That just kind of seems what it has been. Checking out the schedule. Week 1, Chargers. Week 2, Eagles. They wasted no time at all for the Super Bowl rematch. Week 3, Giants. Week 4, Ravens. Right off the bat, that's a tough start, and I can see 2-2 here. I can see 2-2. Chargers, Eagles, Giants, Ravens, maybe 3-1. But I can see 2-2 here. You have the Jags, the Lions, the Raiders, the Commanders, next 4 games. Again, man, I don't know. Like, I think that the Jags win, Lions coin flip. That is at home, and that is a Sunday nighter. Then you have the Raiders, you have Commanders. So another stretch, 3-1, maybe 2-2, but maybe 3-1. They're not going 15-2 again. That, to me, is a safe assumption. Then you have the Bills, who the Chiefs always lose to in the regular season, by Broncos, which, again, split down the middle. I think that's going to be split. Then you have the Colts, the Cowboys, the Texans, which, to me, I think the Texans are clearly, this isn't a hot take, the Texans are clearly the best team out of those 3, but the Colts and the Texans are both at home, and I think that could be easy 3-0. Not easy, but I think that could be 3-0. Then you have the Chargers, the Titans, Broncos, and Raiders to finish off the stretch. I think over what makes me like, again, so, let's say 2-2 to start the season. What makes me hesitant on the over is I think the Chiefs, the Chiefs are in the territory of just get in, and we're building to something, right? We're building, our aspiration is not to make it to the playoffs. Our aspiration is beyond that. And what makes me hesitant on the over is just because towards the end of the season, Broncos, Raiders, the last 2 games there, I think are not the gimmies that we have seen in the past. And I'll probably go over just because it's the Chiefs, and to see them going from 15-2 to drop like below 11.5, I think that's a bit too dramatic. But I think it'll be closer. Like I think I don't know, 12 wins? I don't know. What do you see there?
I could see 12 wins here. That second Broncos game is going to be a
Here.
little bit tricky because that's going to be on 4 days rest on Christmas. But we also don't know what they're going to be playing for at that time. Remember last year, they were the last game last year, and Carson Wentz started that game, and they got spanked. So it's honestly going to determine. It's going to depend on where they are in the standings at this late stage. I will say they have a gimme game before that against the Titans, so they should be able to just win that game. But honestly, they're probably preparing for both teams during that week before the Titans game. But 12 wins, I think. Listen, I won't bet them on their spread. They are very anti-spread. I actually won money on them taking the plus of the opposing team last year. So they're not going to win in the way they want that you need them to win. But as far as like the total amount of games, they're pretty consistent. They can pretty consistently help you there. So I would say that's an okay to take the over on the wins for them. Just don't bet with them on the spread.
Yeah, dude, they love to win by like 3 points. Like if they're giving like 4.5, you take the plus points. If they're giving 4.5, you know what I mean? I 100% agree with that. All right, let's move on to the NFC West now as we turn the corner. Once again, everybody, thank you for watching, whether it's on Total Apex Sports on X, the S.O.S Podcast Network on YouTube or X. We appreciate it. This show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles. I have to change this. I'll change it right after. Next time Joe talks, I'll change it. First Round Collectibles, promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have ongoing sales all the time, up to 50% off your order. And with promo code SPORTS10, you get an extra 10% off your order. Go to FirstRoundCollectibles.com today. Also, TotalApexSports.com. Baseball season heading into the playoff stretch. We got hockey coming, basketball coming, football right around the corner. Go to TotalApexSports.com for all the info that you need to get ready for the upcoming seasons. Moving on to the NFC West right away, right off the bat, quickly here, Joe. What is the main storylines that you're looking at in the NFC West this season?
I mean, I think this was again one of the hotly contested divisions last year before the Rams ran away with it towards the second half of the season. There was like I want to say there was a Thursday night game, I believe, against the Jets that they won. That was kind of like the spearhead of them kind of like taking off past the Seahawks, past everyone else. But like they were like all back and forth for a good period of time because the Niners weren't the Niners. And so it just all of a sudden it became like a hotly contested division. So I think for me, can the Rams get back? Can they be better than they were last season? And what is the health of Matthew Stafford long-term lasting, the 17 games in the season?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm curious about too, because I'm going to talk about this more when we get to the Rams here in a few minutes. Matthew Stafford will always just be good. And he will most likely, you have to chop his arm off to get him off the field. Like he'll be as hurt as anybody and he'll find a way to play. Eventually that has to give at some point. It can't like that was the thing about Tom Brady playing until he was 70 is he was healthy. And he played a style that allowed him to stay healthy. Matthew Stafford will still just run and get his helmet blown off. Like he's not,
it's not a spring chicken anymore.
He's not adapting. Yeah, dude, like he's not adapting to what his body needs. That's going to be interesting. I think the Seahawks, the whole Sam Darnold era is fascinating to me. The Cardinals, I think have gotten better. We'll see. The Niners, I just always want them to be bad, and finally they have been. So we'll see how long that goes. And yeah, man, there's lots to talk to. Let's get into Raider Nation's wife. Again, thank you for hanging out, Raider Nation. Really appreciate it. His wife is a big Niners fan. Let's just get right into the San Francisco 49ers as amateur hour strikes again, and I pull up the Niners information. Here we are. 6-11 last year. 10.5 wins is their total this year. The market just whatever. 6-11. It's a blip. They're back. 10.5 wins. No questions asked. Just
1000%.
back to the top. 13. Yeah, dude. 13-1 are the odds to win the Super Bowls. Where are you to win the Super Bowl? There's just one, if I remember correctly. Where are you at with this Niners team, man? The offense, I know that they lost Debo. Still a lot of talent on that squad. Brock Purdy, I'm guilty of, like, we should all admit this guy's for real. I still have a hard time with that. I don't know why. No disrespect to the guy. Which, by the way, if you say no disrespect, you're being disrespectful.
That's
but
what I always say.
Whatever. That's just how it is. Lots of talent, health for Kittle. Who knows? Jennings wants more money. Does that matter? We'll kind of see how it goes. The defense, no mistake, the defense has gotten worse. I'm curious to see, or to hear rather, what you're seeing in this Niners team.
Well, yeah, listen, let's start with that defense because they've gotten significantly younger on that side of the ball, but also because of that, they've gotten significantly a little bit inexperienced on that side of the ball, right? But they've also brought back stalwart defensive coordinator Robert Saleh back into the fold. So
Yes,
he is one of those
huge.
guys that, listen, he may be just a coordinator. He may just be. Listen, Spagnuolo found that out, and listen, he's probably one of the best, if not the best, defensive coordinator of all time, right? So when you put that into perspective, maybe he realizes this is just his calling right here. Maybe this is he's gonna really just hammer in as far as being one of the best D coordinators in the league. Listen, his knowledge on the defense, his ability to teach that side of the ball is going to be under a great test this season because outside of Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, this defense is pretty young. And it's going to be very interesting how he gets this unit to gel together. I mean, Alfred Collins is going to see significant time in the lineman rotation. Mikel Williams is going to be starting at one of the end spots opposite Nick Bosa. If they can combine together and provide some pass rush, it should give them an ability to hold up on the back end. Fred Warner's still there. He's still going to be making plays, making the calls in the middle of the field. How that defense is able to hold up, I think, is ultimately going to be how this season's going to be determined by them. I think as far as their offense is concerned, they'll still be solid. Ayuk, Jennings, and Pearsall, I think, are a really solid 3 wide receiver combination. I think the whole Jennings thing.
Yep.
I said this to friends outside of in the off season, like he would be a sought after player for wide receiver needy teams. I think low key he can, when healthy and when given like the reps, because he's been a wide receiver 3 this whole time, like with Deebo Samuel in there and Ayuk in there, and they had drafted Pearsall. He had to kind of like wait until everybody got completely decimated before he could actually, get into positions to be able to make plays. So um, I think he feels like he's overperformed this contract. I think that he's had one really decent season, which was last season. And I think he's trying to with all these wide receivers getting paid, he's trying to kind of get that little increase for himself too, given his expanded role.
Yep.
But I think we need to see it for 17 games from him. This season will be determined by their ability to consistently run the football like we've seen them, and also have the ability to control the football, because their defense, I don't think their defense is as stout as years past. That bill for Purdy came due, and they are paying it. They decided to pay it. So that means that they have to spend less elsewhere.
Yep.
And we're going to see a lot of young guys are going to have to step up on that defense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, man. I think it goes to what you just said, man. The ball control part of it's going to be huge. I think playing with a lead is going to be huge for this team. I don't like this running back room at all. It really concerns me because, like, let's just be real about this, man. Christian McCaffrey is no doubt one of the, if not the best running back in the game. However, I don't like this offensive line as much as I have in years past. It's still fine. It's still good. Not the talent that it has been. Still good. I'm not saying that. Christian McCaffrey's hurt all the time. And I don't know, like this like trip to Germany or whatever, like last year, like maybe he's back, maybe he's not, man. But that will always be a concern with Christian McCaffrey. Always, it's his health. That's just the reality. So if he goes down, like Joe, who are these people? I'm hosting a show about the National Football League, and I should not admit this. I don't know any of these people. I don't know any of these guys. Who are they? I don't know. Like, to me, and you're right. They paid Purdy, and they're paying a lot of these guys, and the visa bill comes due. I understand. But to have somebody as injury prone as Christian McCaffrey and not add to this running back room is just concerning to me. And we can talk about the defense, and I agree with you. This offense has proven, at least in my mind, maybe I'm wrong, but it's proven to me that no matter how talented this offense is, without Christian McCaffrey, it is a whole nother ball game. It just is. And that concerns me.
No, I 100% agree that that's a valid concern. They've had a stable of backs back there, and I've mentioned some of them who have gone to other teams like Mostert, guys like
Yes.
Jeff Wilson, ran behind this line. Jordan Mason last year ran behind this line. Um, they got down to their third and fourth running backs last year with the rotation. And Garendo, who's now slated RB2 right now, he got some major snaps last year in relief, and he ran well behind this line. So while maybe it's not as stout as we remember it, let's just remember that the lineage of running backs that have run in the Shanahan offense, they've been largely successful. They are going to be depending on some more young guys this year. Grendo's going to be a year older. They picked up Jordan James from Oregon. I don't know if he's an every down type back to where if the first two do go down, if he can be the guy. I think he can be a guy. If he's like a 5 to 10 carry guy in a tandem, I think he can work. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of that is going to depend on McCaffrey's health. But I will say Grendo has proven to be able to handle the load if he needs to. But if they go 2 down, it's going to get dicey this year. As opposed to years past, if they go 2 down, can get a little dicey this year.
To say the least. All right, quickly we'll run down this schedule. Where are we at here? All right. All right. Seahawks week 1 division matchup right off the top. Then the Saints, Cardinals, Jags. That seems to me like a minimum 2-2 stretch. I think they can get out of there with at least 2-2 there, maybe 3-1. Again, the Seahawks and Cardinals are extreme wild cards to me. I think the Saints, obviously, are not going to. I mean, it's not rocket science here. I think the Saints are not going to be good. The Jags. What's funny about the Jags, and we're again another show we'll talk about the Jags, but the Jags. Every schedule that we look at, if I see Jags, I automatically chalk it for a loss. But the Jags, they're going to have to win some games. So we'll see how much that kind of comes around to bite me down the line. But that being said, you have the Seahawks, the Saints, the Cardinals, the Jags, first 4 weeks, okay? Let's say 3-1, 2-2, around there. The next 2 weeks, both on the road, Rams and Bucks. Very difficult matchups, especially the Bucks in October in Florida, although the Niners are a California team. That's going to be, so to me, those first 4 games are pretty important considering that you have the Rams and the Bucks back to back on the road. Then you have the Falcons, who I think, I don't think that'll be too tough of a challenge. That is a Sunday night game, I believe, in week 7. Then you have the Texans, the Giants, the Rams, and then you have the Cardinals, Panthers, Browns before a bye week there. So let's say you get through week 6, 3-3, you beat the Falcons, you lose to the Texans 4-4, you beat the Giants, you beat the Rams. I just see kind of hovering around 500 kind of all year long here. I think the Browns, obviously the Browns are just a constant question mark at all times. That defense is still pretty good. You have the bye. Then you have the Titans and the Colts back to back. We talked about that before, circled wins. And then the Bears and the Seahawks to round out the season. I think, I don't know, man. Like, to me, I'm this defense concerns me to a point, and the health of their offense concerns me to a point where I can see just sneaking under that number at 10 wins. It's I think the Robert Saleh part of this is really interesting to me. Still can't believe he was fired from New York. I mean, I believe it, but that was stupid. But yeah, man, like I would I be shocked if they went over that number? Of course not. But I can see them going a little bit under, man. I can see 10 wins for this team this year.
Yeah, 10 to me seems about right. If you look at what their schedule is, so they drew the NFC South and the AFC South, which I feel like the AFC South outside of the Texans, very winnable games, if we're being honest. As far as the NFC South is, their division winner was almost below 500, so they could also be winnable games. I think the Bucks will be tough. But outside of that, that was another division where, like, not very competitive as a whole, like as far as their overall record. So if they split their division games and get the majority of those 8 games, they could come in at around exactly 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. I listen, this is the truth of it. I like to be as objective as possible. I think that I'm a very knowledgeable person when it comes to certain sports. Um, the lack of respect, and even though they lost everybody, I understand, but the lack of respect that the Niners had, both in the locker room and the fans, by the way, when they lost to the Eagles in that championship game, I'm just super petty about that still, man. I can't let it go. In the locker room, talking about the Eagles like there's some like UFL
Whoa,
squad that just
whoa.
lucked out.
Not them catching a stray.
Is that not fair? Sorry, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I
Hey,
just it.
the MVP of that league has a roster spot right now, okay?
Sorry, I meant CFL. Is what I
Okay.
meant to
Well,
say. My mistake.
you can
My
speak on that
mistake.
more than
That's
I
not
could.
fair either. I was just thinking of the first league that came into my head. Whatever. You get my point. All right, moving on. Seattle Seahawks, 10-7 last season. 8.5 wins is the total this year, which normally I would say that seems a bit low considering the 10-7 record last year. But I actually get it. 10-7 record last year, 8.5 wins is the total. 60-1 is their odds to win the Super Bowl. All right, man. What do you got? What do you got on the Seattle Seahawks? I really like their running back room. They haven't really changed it at all. I really like it. The receiving, I don't know how I feel about this. The fact I was doing my studying over the weekend and I was like, oh yeah, Cooper Kupp's there now. That just flew out of my mind. Completely forgot that. I don't. I like the running back room. The receiving room is okay. I like the defense. I think having DeMarcus Lawrence there is obviously huge. I don't I don't know. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time with this one because I always want to root for the Seahawks. I have no idea why. But the funny thing is, and you can touch on this, Joe, like Sam Darnold was awful for a long time. Comes to Minnesota and his career's revived. By the time the season hadn't even finished before he was awful again. So what are we expecting here from Sam Darnold? I don't know the answer, and that gives me some serious pause on the Seattle Seahawks team.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, my concern really is can Kenneth Walker III stay healthy? He's been injured literally every season he's played, it feels like, to me. So from that standpoint, I worry about now the pass and run game balance because McDonald's their coach, and he's gonna want to run the football, run the football, run the football. I think he's gonna want to kind of like have more of that Baltimore flavor to how he runs the offense. And that's part of the reason why DJ Metcalf was not like a really big fan of how the defense how the offense ran last year was because it not a whole lot of targets really at least compared to years past, right? I will say they're definitely a distinct turning of the page with this team. They've literally made it their point to eradicate anything that had any association with Pete Carroll. Like, there's not a single person on this team that I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so they really,
Yeah,
really,
100%.
really made it a point that they wanted to show that this was a complete regime change, that we're restarting this franchise, so to speak, right? Um, their home stadium games used to be like a vaunted place to play. You used to hate playing in Seattle because of how loud it
Yeah.
was. And I've, at least from what I've heard and what I've seen, is like it hasn't been like that like the last couple of years. It hasn't been that kind of, hey, and I don't know if that had to do with, Pete Carroll not being there, or some of the, the guys that they've loved, and the Wagners of the world, the Shermans, the faithful that they, loved from that team. I don't know if that's part of it, but not exactly a hard win to get these days. So I think they've lost a little of aura, if you will. That's the word I want to use. They've lost a little of their aura in recent seasons, and I'm curious to see what Sam Darnold does as a reboot from last season. Is he a one-hit wonder? We're gonna find out because he's getting paid to find out. He's got toys. JSN, dog. That guy can ball. Okay. So makes sense that they want to transition into him being the number one. Cooper Cup, I think, in his new stage of life now, like as a number two, number three kind of, hybrid guy. I think he'd be solid as long as you don't expect too much from him. If you're expecting peak Cooper Cup 100 catch season from the Rams, I don't think he's that guy anymore. Um, I think MVS, if he can catch, if he can catch, he could be a problem. He's your deep threat. I think he can spread the field for you. Um, but any place he's been, he's dropped more than he's caught the ball. So that's going to be very interesting. I think the line will be solid. They drafted Greg Zabel to take that left guard spot next to Charles Cross. I think they can run the football effectively. Can they stay healthy at that position remains to be seen. But if they can ball control with Walker, with Charbonnet, Darnold using his weapons, I think it could really help that defense. I think if DeMarcus Lawrence can even remotely hit peak DeMarcus Lawrence, he could be a problem. Um, I low key do like their secondary. Julian Love, I've always loved. No pun intended. Um,
Mhm.
as a former
Yep,
Giant,
I
I've
agree.
loved him. But he was never because we always had guys there because we had McKinney there. We had guys in that position to where he was just the third safety. We had McKinney and we had Peppers. So he never cracked like the starting lineup, but he was solid. And I think in his transition to being the guy, um, and I think the fact that they drafted a safety behind him will even give him even more motivation to keep up that play. Low key, I think that secondary can hold, but it only holds if their running game can keep them off the field.
Yeah, yeah, I like the secondary as well. I'm right there with you. The rest of this defense, I just gotta kind of see it, like
Fair.
believe it when I see it, type of thing. I'm with you with the DeMarcus Lawrence. So let's look at the schedule real quick. I again, like, the thing with Sam Darnold that concerns me is, like, more than whatever else would be concerning, is Sam Darnold found it. All right. He found it. Now, he had very good weapons over there in Minnesota. What concerns me is the fact that he had this come to Jesus season. Yes, it faded at the end. Understood. That's kind of the Viking style, though. Like, they have these incredible seasons and then just kind of flame out. It's just kind of what happens over there. He had this great season and then he's already changing scenery. That concerns me. I would have loved to have seen another year in the same system with the same pieces and see what he can do in year two. The fact that he's already changing, that kind of bothers me a little bit. But let's look at this season. Again, 8.5 is the total. And I think the first 5 weeks are crucial here. You have the 49ers, Steelers on the road, Saints, Cardinals, and the Bucks. in the first 5 weeks. That could easily be 2-3 or 1-4. Like maybe we're shocked 3-2. Certainly, I don't see 4-1 in the cards here. But 49ers at home, that's a plus. Then you have Pittsburgh on the road, Saints, which we would like to think is a win, that's at home. Then you have the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football in Arizona, and then the Bucks, which I again, we'll talk about this in the future. I love the Bucks this year. I have high hopes for the Bucks this year, and for Baker doing it yet again. But then, if you can get out of there 3-2, 2-3, you got the Jags on the road in week 6. You have the Texans week 7, good team. By week 8, Commanders, Cardinals, Rams. That's a tough 3-game stretch. Then you have the Titans, the Vikings, the Falcons, and the Colts, which is a pretty soft 4-game stretch, finishing off with the Rams, the Panthers, and the Niners. So again, this is hard for me to fully put together with just the unknown of what Sam Darnold we're going to get. I feel like 8 is the right number here. I certainly wouldn't bet real money on the over. I'd like to see it, but I feel like 8 is the number here. I just have a hard time seeing them going beyond that. And if they went under the 8 even, it would not shock me.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think it was a really nice, really neat story. Him being able to bounce back from, the expectations that he had with the Jets, and then, Panthers, Niners. I would have liked to see if he was in fact fixed, quote unquote. Honestly, I think anybody who goes to the Jets is set up to fail. That's just me personally. Shout out to Josh Valdez, my homie. I just think anyone who goes to the Jets is set up to fail. And whatever I've always said about people that have landed on the Panthers, if you've played on the Panthers, there's probably some part of you that just has the bad misfortune that becomes just a part of you somehow. And he's played on the Panthers too. So, I say all that to say, I think we don't know until we get maybe through that first half of the season to see where they are. I think the division games are going to be tough. I think that the style of play on how they play football, if their running game is healthy, if Walker stays healthy, if Charbonnet stays healthy, I think they can ball control enough to probably win some games very close, but not more than the games they lose. I think 8 is around that number. 7, 8, I'd be comfortable with. Over 500, I'm not too comfortable with, just based on their schedule.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right, moving on. 2 teams left in this AFC NFC West preview. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Spotify, this episode will be available later in the week, although if you've watched this whole thing, then you probably won't go on Spotify, because I don't know. Do you want to listen to me for 4 hours? I don't know. Joe, probably. Me, I don't know. And don't worry, once the season starts, these episodes, won't be 2 hours long. But hey, listen, man, it's a preview. This is what it's all about. Lots to get into. And most of you, from my numbers here, most of you have been with us since the beginning, which is amazing, and we really appreciate it. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals, 8-9. Was the record last year. 8.5 wins is their total this year. 50-1 Super Bowl odds. Off the bat, again, Kyler Murray is another guy that I really want to have faith in, and it's kind of hard to see at times. I really, on paper, I really like these weapons, man. Like I really like these weapons. Having James Conner, obviously Marvin Harrison Jr., incredible year last year. I think, adding They added Zay Jones, right? Zay Jones. This is off of memory. Yeah. I think Trey McBride, just tremendous, helped me out in fantasy a ton last year. And then on the defensive side, I just think defensively, and this is hilarious for me to say this as an Eagles fan, I gotta say, man, Jonathan Gannon has been a way better head coach than I thought he would. Way better. Defense is his forte. You wouldn't know it by watching the Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl a couple years ago, but it is his forte. And I just think that this defense is older. They're more mature. They're experienced. Having Josh Sweat coming from the Eagle, like, that is huge. Most of the ex-Eagles that we've talked about have been like linemen, whether on the offensive line, defensive line. Mekhi Becton earlier in the show, which I don't think we actually talked about him. Milton Williams, we talked about last week. But having a player like Josh Sweat on the edge, I just think is huge, like huge pickup for this Cardinals team. I think the defense is better. And just like I said, like older, experienced. I really like this defense heading into this season. The offense is loaded with weapons, young weapons. And Kyler Murray is still a guy, all the talent in the world, but still difficult to trust. Where are you at with this Cardinals team? 8.5 again is the
All right,
number.
well, I'll say this. So you did mention Gannon being the defensive coach, defensive forte. 99% of their draft was defense. Literally almost every draft pick that they chose is on defense, with the exception of Hayden Connor, who they picked up in the 6th round as a guard. Everyone else is on the defensive side of the ball. So he is clearly making a point that he is going to solidify that side of the ball. And you know what? I think Walter Nolan being in that rotation with Calais Campbell, who's also another veteran that they picked up to make this team a little bit more experienced. Dalvin Tomlinson, who I've always liked, former Giant, pretty decent there in the middle. I think that this front seven, I think, is going to be even more improved. Another year under Gannon, and then Buda Baker on the backside of this defense. This guy, ball hawk,
Still solid.
still solid. Okay. And still pretty fast. I mean, granted, he probably doesn't think so because DJ Metcalf chased him down all those years ago, thought he had a pick six. But he's still pretty quick. The guy can still ball hawk in the backside of the defense. So I don't think they will be as exposed as in years past. I think this defense is growing with Jonathan Gannon. I don't think the Cardinals were ever kind of like, last year it felt like they were either surprisingly good or disappointingly bad. There was like no in between with them. Like they were like, oh wow, they won that game. Oh wow, they looked good against this team. And then there was other games where you're like, why were they this bad? So I think based on that, what's their number? What are we looking at as far as their win total? 8.5 for me is a little too rich based on the division they're in and how other teams have gotten better. As far as like competitive wise, I think it's going to separate a little bit more towards the Rams. I just if their quarterback can stay healthy, if Stafford can stay healthy, I think they win with a little bit more margin than they kind of had to kick it into high gear the second half of the season to get where they wanted to go there. I think there's going to be a little bit more separation this time around. 8 for me is a little too rich. I think somewhere in the 6-7 range is good, but I don't think they're going to be like that easy. I don't think you can look at them on the schedule and be like, that's the get right game. That's how I used to look at them. I don't think I can look at them that way. I think they're going to be feisty. I think every game against them is going to be feisty, and it's really going to ultimately determine. I think Kyler Murray being more consistent as a quarterback. is gonna speak wonders. I think another year under this regime, under these under these coordinators, things like that, continuity is going to be important. I think that continuity into another year under Gannon is going to help them grow. Um, Kyler needs to be a little bit more consistent. Let's see what happens in the second year under this regime.
Yeah, man, like just like jumping right to the schedule, I think that you hit a lot of great points. I'm curious about this schedule and what your opinion is, because I really do think that the first half of this season for the Cardinals is like we'll tell the whole story. I'll just jump to my prediction right away. I think over the 8.5. And the reason why is if they can take advantage of this first half schedule, you have the Saints, you have the Panthers, which I think the Panthers will be better. And again, another episode we'll talk about them, but I think the Panthers will be better. I still think at home, week 2, the Cardinals can take care of business. You have the Saints week 1 in New Orleans. No matter how bad the Saints are, still going to New Orleans week 1, it'll be hype. I wouldn't chalk that up as a must or as a like guaranteed win like I might in week like 9 or something. But you have Saints, Panthers, Niners, Seahawks in week 4. I think that could be 3-1. I think that's the ceiling there. And then week 5 and 6, you have Titans, Colts. So again, we circle those. You got to win at least one of those. So you're at, 4-2, maybe 5-1 at worst, 3-3. Packers, again, we'll talk about it in the future. I'm curious. I'm not too sure how I feel about this Packers team coming into this season. Then the bye. So if you can sneak out of there, the first 7 weeks, 5-2, 4-3, you have the Cowboys week 9 in Dallas, so that's tricky. In Seattle week 10, and then home against the Niners week 11. Then you have the Jags and the Buccaneers and the Rams and the Titans back to back to back to back. Pretty tough stretch there. To close off the season, you have the Falcons, the Bengals, and the Rams. To close out the season, I honestly think that first half of the schedule, they should be within 3 wins of clearing that over, or 4 wins by the time halfway through the season comes around. I like I said, I like this defense. I like the weapons on the offense. And I just think that first half is really crucial, especially in the only world that matters, and that's the betting world. To clear that 8.5.
Yeah, listen, 8.5 very could be viable, and I think really the stretch that I would pinpoint as a really critical stretch, that Titans through Cowboys stretch. I think the Titans and Colts have issues enough to where the Cardinals can exploit them. I think the Packers, low key, Jordan's gonna give you a couple. He's gonna give you a couple, and with Buda Baker back there, I think he can grab 1 or 2, and turnovers end up dooming the Packers in that game. So I think that stretch, and then they're gonna have 2 weeks to prepare for the Cowboys. So I think that stretch right there is really going to be important to that number. And I think if they were to come out of that, say 3-1, let's just say they take the Packers game, lose the Cowboys game, or vice versa, clearing 8.5 might not be ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. All right, let's wrap up this AFC NFC West preview. Once again, thank you to everybody for joining us. The Los Angeles Rams. Again, this roster excites me. I think what's hilarious about this is that when they won the Super Bowl, it just felt like they maxed out their credit card. Like they maxed it out, and like the bill was coming, and they turned it around, man. I think that loss to the Eagles in the playoffs last year, if they win that game, I don't know if they win the Super Bowl, but I think that they represent the NFC at a minimum. But last year, 10-7, 10.5 is their total this year. So the Bucs are right there with last year. 10.5 is their total, which I feel like is a bit high, just even as high as I am on the Rams. But 10.5 is a total, 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. Right off the bat, Matthew Stafford is always the topic of conversation when this team is mentioned. He's old. He gets hurt a lot. What's it going to be? Right off the bat, though, you have Puka. You have Devontae Adams. Like,
Yeah.
if Stafford's healthy, dude, like that's like I can't tell you this off of memory. We'd have to do. I know he had Calvin Johnson back in the day or whatever, but like, is this the best 1-2 punch he's ever had? Like,
Wow.
just
Yeah.
phenomenal.
As far as old world talent.
Like, I have to think harder than I am right now, but I think so. Right? I like the running back room, especially Kyron Williams. I think Higbee still there. I like their defense. I'm not in love with it. However, the fact that they lost some pieces, like I was talking about the whole credit card bill thing, getting Verse in last year's draft was just huge to keep the momentum of that
I agree.
defense going. Again, this conversation falls to Stafford. If that guy's healthy, man, this is one of the most dangerous offenses in the conference, in my opinion. Loaded.
Yeah, you know what's crazy about them is that a lot of people thought like by like week 6 or 7 last year that we were needing to sell assets. We were like, but then that Thursday night game, I want to say it was a Thursday night, a game against the Jets. I might be wrong, but I feel like it was a Thursday night game that they were losing for a majority, but then pull out the win and brought them to a little bit closer to the pack as far as who's on top of the NFC West. And it was like they never looked back from there. And it kind of proved to everyone's like, whoa, wait, maybe it's not that we're going further away. Maybe we're ahead of schedule, because a lot of people were thinking they were going to take a step back this year because they had a lot of new pieces on that defense with Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. Like they thought they were going to be taking a step back, but lo and behold, not taking a step back. They're actually ahead of schedule. And they also played a majority of that first half of the season without their starting 5 in the offensive line. So like that in itself, they started with a not so healthy offensive line, and that could have contributed to the rough start. And then as their line got healthy, then their run game gets healthy. Stafford's protected. Now we're cooking with grease. One of the big things that they had problems with last year was defense against the run. Their defense against the run was horrendous. I think Saquon ran for a total of 500 yards against them in the 2 games they played against each other. So that's something that they picked up Poona Ford from the Chargers. I think that's going to help. Veteran guy, stout guy in the middle. That's going to help them solidify that line with Fisk and with Verse. I think that's going to help. I think with the weapons that they have on offense, if Stafford's healthy, they can lock down on offense. Third down with you've got Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and Tyler Higbee, and Kyron Williams out of the backfield, low key, pretty decent option out of the backfield catching the ball too. So now you're thinking
Yep.
third down,
Yep.
we can keep defenses off the field, and maybe if our run defense is still suspect, if we can keep ourselves on the field, well, then that'll give our defense less reps, less snaps on the field. So I think honestly, 10 is about right for me. I think with that division, how hotly contested it is between each other, I think they kind of like, it's like Murderers Row. They split a lot. There's not a whole lot of separation. At least from what we saw last year, there wasn't a whole lot of separation until the Rams' second half of the season. So I think that 10 seems about right. I wouldn't feel comfortable with going 11-6. But there's, man, if Stafford's healthy, there's not a lot not to love about this team for sure.
Yeah, man, and I think that there are people saying like Devontae Adams, he's washed, blah blah blah. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think the last few seasons for him has just been so dramatic with the whole Aaron Rodgers nonsense, and then going to Las Vegas, which is like he went to Las Vegas for his boy, and then his boy got traded and or moved or whatever the situation was. And then he's just in a place that he only wanted to be because of the guy that's not there anymore. And just the whole kind of disaster. All right. Quick look at the schedule. We'll wrap up. Texans week 1, kind of tricky spot right off the bat, but you are home on a late Sunday afternoon against the Texans. Titans, Eagles week 3 in Philly. Then you have the Colts, Niners week 4 and 5. Week 6 is the Ravens. So that 6-week stretch is tough right off the bat. With the Texans, Titans, we can call that. I think they can go 2-0 there. But a lot of new pieces, some new faces. We can call that 1-1. Eagles in Philly, that'll be tough on an early Sunday afternoon. Then the Colts, Niners, like you said, lots of splits. So I can see, and then you have the Ravens. So I can see that 3-3, kind of right down the middle in Baltimore. By the way, that week 6 game, and I think Baltimore yet again is going to be just a beast this season. And then you have the Jags and the Saints with a bye sandwich between there. That I can see that, 2-0. Again, I'm giving wins to anybody playing the Jags and the Saints, but those teams are going to have to win eventually. And then you have the Niners, Seahawks, weeks 10 and 11, Bucks, week 12, Panthers, week 13, Cardinals, Lions, Seahawks, Falcons, Cardinals to wrap it up. That is a tough back half to the schedule. I think in your home against the Bucks, in Carolina, in Arizona, home against the Lions, in Seattle, in Atlanta, lots of road games kind of wrapping up that schedule. I think that 10 is the right number, a slightly under. However, I do think, especially with Matt Stafford and Devontae Adams, I can absolutely see this similar to what we saw last year, man. Just a mediocre team that takes off. I can absolutely see that kind of as the season rolls on, gaining momentum, and just takes off. And with all this concern about like Matthew Stafford, this will be my last point here. All this concern about Matthew Stafford and his health. The guy, like we said, he plays all the time. Now, being at his age and how much his body has had to take. Last year, 16 games. Year before that, 15 games. Okay, you're missing a couple. 2022, 9 games. So that was the season, right? 9 games. Then I'm keep going back. 17, 16, 8 in 2019, 16. That was back when it was 16 game season. So as hurt as this guy is all the time, the guy plays. He's almost always on the field. Now, In the event that he misses, like he did last year, like he did the year before, in the event that he misses a game or two, if he's out for half the year, this team's done. But if you have to trust Jimmy for a game or two, I'm okay with that. I'm not a big Jimmy Garoppolo guy, but with the weapons that he has and the running back room that he has, if you have to trust Jimmy for 1 or 2 weeks, there's worse backups to have to rely on for a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think Devontae actually spoke to this because they actually played together in Oakland, and he was just like, "Listen, me and Jimmy, we're straight. We're straight. I think we just both had a miserable experience at that other place. And I think if he had to throw me the football, I think we could be pretty locked in. I think we could be pretty locked in. Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a solid backup. Has played meaningful football all those years with the 49ers. When the guys on the field, he wins football games. Do I want to trust him for anything longer than a 2 or 3 game stint? No, absolutely not. And so Stafford's health is ultimately going to be what determines how the season's going to go.
Yeah, 100%. We made it, Joe. Another preview in the books. Next week, Monday, we'll be back. Of course, today is Tuesday. Yesterday was a no-go on my side, but we will be back next week. To everybody, as always, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. The Solder on Sports Podcast Network getting kicked off with the NFL show for these few weeks. Keep in the loop. In the weeks to come, there will be a baseball show coming as we get closer to the playoffs. There will be a hockey show, of course, coming as we get closer to the regular season. But for now, I'm Mark. He's Joe. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't forget, PortalApexSports.com. They have you taken care of as we get closer to the seasons. First round collectibles, promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off your order. Any sports card in the whole store. FirstRoundCollectibles.com. We will see you next week.